Well, hello, all my amazingly beautiful zodiac family and friends. My name is Libra Empress, and this is another episode of Terror and Tarot with Libra Empress. Today we are going to be watching My Boyfriend Stalked Me, 4 True Horror Stories Animated by IMR Entertainment. Without further ado, let's get started, shall we?
So, I don't know where to start with this. I've never shared my story or stories with anyone other than my close friend. I don't want anyone thinking I'm crazy. Anyways, it was around Christmas time when this all happened. My friend and I were really into Ouija boards, but never had the balls to buy one. Even if I did get one, my parents would pretty much disown me. My family isn't super religious, but they definitely believed in the Ouija board enough to know how powerful it could be. So, as I was saying, this happened around Christmas time. My friend came over to celebrate with my family since he wasn't too close with his. He took me aside and we exchanged gifts. He opened his first. I had gotten him a couple of movies he'd been wanting. When it was my turn to open my gift, he stopped me before I could even read the label. He said, "Make sure your mom doesn't see it." Immediately I knew what he had gotten me. I opened it and there it was. My very own Ouija board. We had a Christmas cake at my place, then went to a bar nearby. After we were done, my friend offered to give me a ride. He dropped me off. I went inside, changed into some comfortable clothes, and set up the Ouija board. I've watched YouTube and read enough of other people's experiences that I knew I didn't want to play it by myself. I called one of my other friends who was looking for something to do. After what seemed like forever, she finally showed up. Let me tell you, she was not happy when she saw the Ouija board. I didn't tell her what we were going to do because I knew she wouldn't show up if I did. Eventually, I conned her into playing it with me. She only agreed to play if I asked all the questions. We sat across from each other with the board in between us. Our Christmas tree was on my left-hand side, and towards the middle of the tree, there was an ornament that looked like a little girl. She's dressed in a green cloak-type thing with a Sherpa-lined hood. My sister has a similar one, but hers is pink. Anyways, I started off with the usual opening of the circle. One of the first questions I asked was, "Is there anyone here with us?" Nothing. I then felt like something was in the room with us. I took a breath and said, "If there's anything here, move an ornament on the tree." Nothing. I said once more, "If there's anything here, move an ornament on the tree." After that, I closed my eyes for a split second when I felt the slightest breeze. Out of the corner of my eye, I see my ornament spinning counterclockwise. My friend is quick to take her hands off the planchette, and I yell at her to put her fingers back because you're never supposed to break the circle. She said she's done playing the stupid game, so I agreed to say goodbye. She leaves, I lock the door behind her, and I pack up the board. As soon as I close the box, I get a phone call. My mom is outside waiting for me to help her bring things upstairs. I rush to find a hiding spot for the board because no one knew that I had it. I quickly throw it under my bed so I could deal with it later. My mom then informs me she's going to my aunt's to spend the night, so I'll be home alone. I was a little scared about what just happened, so I called my friend asking if I could spend the night at her house. Thank goodness she didn't leave yet. I packed a few things, got my coat, and left with her. What I didn't know was, later that night, my family came back home because my sister wasn't feeling too well. She had slept in my bed since I wasn't home. The next morning when I returned, my mom looked exhausted. I asked her if she was alright. She replied, "Your sister came to my room terrified and screaming. She didn't tell you?" I said, "No, what happened?" My mom went on to say, "Your sister had a horrible nightmare. She said someone or something killed your dad. She wouldn't stop shaking and refused to sleep in your room." My eyes opened so wide. Something told me to go look under my bed, and sure enough, I was right. The lid to the box from the Ouija board was slightly open. No one knew I had it. I never asked my sister about her nightmare. After that, weird things started happening around the house. All I know is, I will never play with another Ouija board again.
This story begins in 8th grade. For context, I am a white female and was struggling with really bad depression and self-harm, 7th grade to 10th. 2 years clean. Depression had a big impact on my memory, so some sections of my childhood, and this time, is completely blank, so this is as close as I can remember it, but that might not be 100% accurate. At the end of 8th grade, one of my close male friends, Tom, invited me to his birthday party. There was about 10 guys there, and me and my best friend, female. I knew about 9 of the guys there, but one I didn't recognize. This party took place in a garden playground. We played hide-and-go-seek, tag, and capture the flag with fake swords. As the sun began to set, Tom wanted to play hide-and-go-seek in the dark. There was a dark tunnel that went from the play structure to the rest of the park. A majority of us started to run to the tunnel to go hide. Suddenly, halfway through, hands shot out and tried to grab people's ankles. I tripped and landed on my hands and knees. The second my hands hit the ground, a foot hit my legs as I tripped someone else. The hands in the dark laughed as Tim's friends came out from the dark. The person who tripped over me turned out to be the person I had never met. We went to a bench right outside the tunnel to check for wounds and patch ourselves up. We got acquainted, and he introduced himself as Davidson Whitaker III. He was polite, kind, and easy on the eyes. We had some stuff in common. His birthday was the same as my father's, and he was outgoing and an extrovert, exactly what I needed to be a more rounded person. The rest of the night was a blur, but we spent most of the night talking. As the party was coming to an end, and people's parents were coming to pick them up, he asked for my number in addition to my best friend's. He did it in a way that he only really wanted my number, but wanted to be polite. He never seemed creepy in doing this. He wasn't unsettling. He was just a cute boy asking for my number. Davidson, or as he let me call him, Davis, and I spent the next month or so texting almost non-stop every day. I felt beautiful and wanted. It was comforting. At some point, we became more than friends. We were suddenly dating, but I never wanted to go on a date. I think he convinced me to go on some date as a group, to some movie, but I don't remember it. The only proof I have of this exchange is a ticket stub and his word. He finally convinced me to go on a real date. I wore some jean shorts and a t-shirt. He chose the location of a museum in the city. If you know me, you wouldn't know there's only 3 museums I like in the whole world, and I hate normal museums. As a kid, my mom forced me to go to all of them whenever we traveled, and I got sick of them quickly. He picked me up from my house and now knew where I lived. I didn't think anything of it at the time. After we went to the museum, I went out to dinner with him and my mom at my favorite Thai place. I even have an awkward photo to remember that moment by. After the date, however, he sent me lewd thoughts he had that whole date with me. He had attempted sexting before, but I wasn't that involved. I'd send a yeah or a daddy every 20 lines or so. I've always been a people pleaser in both ways and just wanted him to be happy. But this time felt off. It felt real. I couldn't pretend someone else was sexting him. It was about me, and I didn't like that. It made me feel uncomfortable, and so I just buried that feeling deep. This was the first thing that felt off about him. After that, things got worse. I wanted space sometimes, and he didn't like that. I would take a 30-minute shower and get back to 50 to 100 messages from him. He started to make it racial. He is African American. And kept on talking about how I needed some of his cocoa. My family is from the Deep South, so anything racial makes me deeply uncomfortable. His messages got more explicit. He would detail any wet dream he had about me, and how it made him feel. It all made me so uncomfortable. Finally, I had had enough. I told him it was over, and we needed to stop. It had only been about 2 to 3 months, but I couldn't take it anymore. I said no. He argued. He said it wasn't fair. He said I needed him. He said he cared about me. He said I was the only one. I said no again. That didn't matter to him. We were meant to be, and my no meant nothing to him. That scared me. I told him I wouldn't feel safe anymore around him, and how much I hated what he was doing. I told him that I wasn't comfortable anymore because he didn't know the meaning of no, because I was scared he was going to rape me. He said he'd never hurt me. I told him to stay away from me. From my house. He showed up at my doorstep. My parents invited him in because they thought we were still dating. I was so ashamed it wasn't working out that I just couldn't say anything. He stayed for food before I was able to get him out. I told my parents shortly after he left to never let him return. He continued with the one-sided sexting. He sent nudes. He sent 13 red roses when I didn't talk to him for a week. I threw the roses out the window. I've always hated flowers because they die too quickly, but he never bothered to ask. He showed up at my doorstep again, even when I begged him not to. My dad told him through the door to go away as I cowered in our living room. He scared me so much. I was never safe. Every guy around his height with his haircut gave me a fright. I was terrified he would see me and rape me. I got a boyfriend freshman year, John, a timid guy who I could break if I hugged him too hard. John's heart was made of gold. He made me feel safe. Yet Davis persisted. He texted me daily, begging me to stop cheating. He thought we had been dating this whole time. I tried everything, besides disengaging. I told him I was gay now. Not entirely wrong. I told him I was transitioning to male. He is very straight, and this was never meant to belittle trans individuals. Yet, what shook him the most was when I gave myself an undercut. Not my hair! He traded it like I was damaging his property. This persisted. Unrelated to him, I went to a therapeutic boarding school end of freshman year. I got the help and support I needed because I had tried to kill myself during freshman year. I got better and off my depression meds. I was gone from technology and texting for 13 months and 12 days. I thought I was better when I came back, that I had matured and could handle him. I messaged him August 20th, beginning of junior year, that I thought we could work it out. Almost verbatim, he said, "All those other girls meant nothing. You were the only one for me." And he also said that we had been dating since that night in 8th grade. I was naive, and I thought I was in control, so we tried to make it work it out. I had 2 rules. 1, you will never ever see me in person. 2, I initiate when we talk. I still felt scared of him, and these rules made me feel safe. He told me he drove by my house every time he went to swim practice, and that he missed me. I was having none of it. I said he had 3 chances and it was over, but he probably broke them 20 times. Junior year, September, I got back with John. He made me feel safe. I told him about Davis, and he was nicer than he should have been about my mistakes with him. We laughed at the stuff Davis said, but deep down I was scared. I am scared. I had enough when I was scrolling back through our old messages. I said no, and he replied, "But my cock says yes." I told him I was done, and I blocked him in November. I unblocked him on Valentine's Day, and he sent about 20 messages of how much he missed me, and the exact day count since I had last talked to him. It scared me. I blocked him immediately without replying. My 18th birthday was riddled with fear, because I told Davis that I wouldn't have sex with him until I was 18 because of morals or whatever. That's what I thought at the time, but now I know it was just fear. He knows my school. He knows my address. My current best friend is trained in martial arts and self-defense for a decade, so I hung to her all day. What should have been an exciting day of adulthood was riddled with fear that he would show up. I haven't unblocked him since last Valentine's Day. I haven't talked to him in almost a year and a half. Yet, I'm still scared some days. Scared that the man who is obsessed with me is right around the corner.
This happened over 20 years ago. I was driving back home with my girlfriend at the time. It was Christmas Eve, and my mother's family used to hold a large celebration at my aunt's house in Estacada. This was my girlfriend's first time meeting with my extended family, but she got on quite well with them. We spent the majority of the afternoon and evening just talking, playing poker, opening presents, and drinking an assortment of adult beverages. My girlfriend was quite drunk by the time we had to leave, so obviously, I'd be driving us home. It was around 11 p.m. or so, and I was driving my girlfriend's car along Highway 211. Now, this stretch of road is surrounded by farms and dense patches of forest, and parts of it are unlit, but nothing to fear. I grew up in this area, so I knew this road like the back of my hand. The both of us were just driving and talking away, just 2 young lovers making the most of our moment together. There's a part of the highway that descends down an enormous hill just before crossing Deep Creek. Surrounding both sides of the road are thick forests. There are no lights. The only thing we could see was the area directly in front of our headlights. I drove down the hill, crossed the bridge, and uphill through more forest. Just as the highway started to flatten out, it happens. Something sprints across the road so suddenly that I almost hit whatever it was. I slam on the brakes. I turned to my girlfriend and asked her if she saw it. She confirmed that she had, but she couldn't make out what it was. Maybe it was a coyote. They're a fairly common sight in this area, but something felt off about it. Whatever it was that ran in front of my car, it disappeared into the woods next to the road. Coyotes don't usually just dart out in front of cars. Not like that anyway. So for some reason, I decided to check it out. I turned the car around and switched on the high beams to better light up the forest in which this thing had vanished into. I step out of the car and walk towards the woods. I don't see anything. But now it feels like perhaps I made a big mistake. My heart is pounding, and the hairs on the back of my neck are standing at full attention. But I still don't see anything unusual in the trees. Suddenly, the car's horn blasts. It's not a beep, beep, beep that you'd get if, say, your driver or passenger wanted you to hurry up and get in the car. No, this was a long, blaring beep. I walked back into the car and asked my girlfriend why she leaned on the horn like that. She said nothing. Instead, she pointed to a spot about 50 feet from where I was standing. I looked in that direction, and that's when I saw it. Surely, this was the thing that ran in front of the car. It was a man. He was completely naked. His skin was covered in dirt and mud, and in one of his hands, he was holding a hatchet. He looked back at us, and then he smiled and waved to us just before turning around and walking back into the forest. Needless to say, we got the hell out of there. Once we were safely driving again, my girlfriend explained what had just happened. While I was trying to look for the man in the area he initially vanished into, he circled back around and came out from another spot in the forest, beyond my car headlights. My girlfriend had seen something out of the corner of her eye, and that's when she saw him. Before she honked the horn, he was walking towards me, his hatchet raised, as if making to strike me. We called the authorities once we got safely back home, but they never found anybody. Or they did and just didn't tell us. But the officer we spoke to explained his theory. The man was obviously looking to ambush unsuspecting lone travelers for God knows what reason. We all agreed that my girlfriend's quick thinking saved my life, as it let my potential killer know that I wasn't alone out there. I moved back into the area recently, so I now drive the highway often. No naked hatchet man sightings yet, but I can tell you that I'm definitely extra vigilant, especially near Deep Creek.
This happened a few years ago, but I still think about it to this day. I was on holiday in a city on the other side of the country, celebrating my 21st birthday with my best friend. We were having an amazing night out with a few too many drinks, and ended up meeting two guys. Let's call them Andrew and Billy. They seemed like really cool guys, and we were into them, so when they asked us to go back to their hotel room, we said yes. Obviously a silly idea, but we were young and drunk. Things were great on the way back to the hotel room. We were all laughing and having a great time. When we got to the hotel room, there were two other men there as well. Let's call them Ricky and JD, who were at least 10 to 15 years older than us. They gave us creepy vibes, but we brushed it off. We asked Andrew and Billy who these guys were, and they said that they were colleagues, as they were in the city for work, and the company paid for their rooms. So Andrew and Billy were in different rooms, but we were all partying in Andrew's room that he shared with Ricky. I got a little too drunk, and my friend put me to bed. She said she was going to Billy's room, and asked if it would be okay with Andrew, and I said yes. Keep in mind, my friend didn't have a phone either, so we basically had no way of getting in contact with each other. Another stupid thing, I know. So I'd been in bed for a while with Andrew, just talking and chilling, when he says, "I just have to pop out and I'll be right back." I assumed he meant just out of the bedroom, not out of the actual hotel room, but he left the hotel room to get something from Billy's hotel room. Anyway, I was just watching TV in the bed when the bedroom door opens, and I assumed it was Andrew. But my heart sank when it was Ricky, the weird colleague. He walked into the room and sat on the bed. Keep in mind, I'm very naked at this point, trying to cover myself with the blanket. He said, "You do realize that everyone has left you alone in here, right? It's just you all alone. No one is here, and no one can hear you," and continued edging closer and closer to me on the bed. At this point, I was completely speechless and absolutely terrified. I was completely frozen in fear, and I had no idea what to do. I tried to say something, but nothing came out. He definitely sensed my fear, and for some reason, he just got up and left. A sense of relief flooded me, and I felt silly for overreacting. That was until I heard JD, other random colleague, shouting, "Get the fuck back in there! What are you doing? This isn't what we discussed. Get the fuck back in there and do what you were meant to do. Who gives a fuck about that whore? Just get back in there and do what you need to do." I ran to the bathroom and locked myself in because I was so scared, but there was no way out, and the only way out of the hotel room was through the front door, and I had to walk past Ricky and JD to get there. I was so terrified. I had a million thoughts rushing through my head, and I had no idea what to do, but I knew I had to escape. I decided my only option was to just leave the room and be ready to defend myself if things were to go pear-shaped. I threw my clothes on and grabbed my shoes. I opened the door, and Ricky and JD were sitting on a couch close to the bedroom door. JD said, "Hey, sexy, where are you going in such a rush? Come and join us. Come here right now." I said, "No thanks," and ran to the front door and ripped it open. When I got out, I was so relieved, but I was still in a random hotel in a random city with no way to contact my friend. But I thought my best option was to go to the lobby and just wait. As I was walking, I heard two men yelling down the hall, "Where are you? We know you aren't too far away. Come back and join us. You know you want to." It was Ricky and JD. I was absolutely fucking terrified by this point. I began sprinting to the elevator. I could hear them gaining on me. I never knew I could run so fast, but I just continued and didn't look back. I felt like I was running forever until I reached the end of the corridor, and my worst nightmare had come true. I missed the turn off of the elevator. Fucking idiot, ha ha ha. So I had to turn and run back towards where I could hear Ricky and JD still yelling down the hallway. I found the elevator and got in. I could hear their voices getting louder and louder, and I didn't want to imagine what would happen if they got into the elevator with me. The door finally closed after what felt like a lifetime. I thought I would go down to the lobby and just wait there, because at least there would be people there, so there would be some form of safety. I got to the lobby and realized that there was no one in sight. No one at all, not even behind the desk. I sat on a couch and didn't know what to do with myself. I was absolutely terrified that Ricky and JD would come to the lobby. Then I heard the elevator ding and the door open. My heart dropped. But it was Andrew. I told him what had happened, and he was outraged that his colleagues did that, and he took me to where my best friend was. Everything turned out fine, but it could have been a lot worse. So Ricky and JD, let's never meet again.
That was My Boyfriend Stalked Me, 4 True Horror Stories animated by IMR Entertainment. Alright, now I pulled 5 cards, and that's basically to connect us to the dead spread and see who we're connecting to tonight. And this is what I got. The person we're connecting to, they were the type of person who dealt with a whole lot of heartache, jealousy, and loss in their life. Now looking back on their life and how they see it, they saw that they said some shit a lot of the time and used their words to cut. They didn't think about what they were going to say and how they were going to say it to whoever they were going to say it to. Maybe they caused the heartbreak. Maybe heartbreak was done to them and they said some shit and then something happened. A lesson they would like to share is don't be too gullible. Alright? Don't fall for anybody's slack jaw ways. You know? A lot of people can talk with honey on their tongue, but not a lot of people can back that shit up. You know? Something they wish they had paid more attention to in life was their stalemate. Possibly a Cancer as well. Let's see. Yeah. A Cancer energy. See, the thing is they were afraid to move, to expand, to do anything. They were afraid of change, And so they didn't do a whole lot with the time they did have here. So that's what they, wish they would have been able to. They wish they had paid more attention to. A message they would like to give you is this: keep working hard. Alright, don't give up. Things will happen the way they're meant to happen, but don't be afraid to reach for those goals and what you really want. Alright? Alright. Now I'll let you go. I love you all. Thank you so much for listening to me. My name is Libra Empress. Please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. And I will see you for next week's Tarot and Tarot with me, Libra Empress. Stay safe. Love you. Bye, my friends.